Hey everybody, welcome back to the Booze Briefing. This is episode number 12. This is where I get to answer your dumbass questions about my books. Joe's The Cold War Diaries Volume 1 and Volume 2 with Volume 3 still in the works and on the way. Can't promise a timeline, guys. This is the hardest phase, I guess, of the writing process. It's the editing. You know, it's going back and tweaking and refining and things that made me laugh when I wrote it. Now, not so much. I got to tweak it. So it takes a lot of work. It's like 80% of the work. So just a heads up on that. But hey, before we get started, be sure to give us a like, a share, a follow. Remember, the more books we sell, the more money and awareness we raise for American Gold Star mothers, a cause near and dear to my heart and hopefully yours too. And speaking of Facebook and YouTube, got a little bit of a challenge for you guys, which I'm going to throw out in a second. But first, I'm going to introduce the drink of the day down here in Club Marn. We've got Blue Note Juke Joint Whiskey. Now, this is the Spirit of the Blues. This is out of Memphis from BR Distilling Company. I believe it's out of Memphis. Yeah, crafted in Memphis. It's an unfiltered, straight bourbon whiskey. And this is batch, I believe it's barrel number 17,000. They've been at this for a minute, huh? 119 proof, so got a little bit more ass on this one. But this was recommended to me by my buddy Dimwit, so hopefully we'll give this a go. And I think sometimes he recommends stuff to me because he knows I think there's some that he recommends that he knows that I'm going to like. And then I think there's some he's like, I can't wait for him to try that because he's going to hate it. Not sure what this is going to be, but it's 119 proof, so right at 120. So let's go ahead and give ourselves a pour here. Nice little homage to the blues on the back of the bottle, though. Oh, that sound, I love it. Let's see, what does it say before I pour? Blues notes were born in the 20s. Oh, and it's uncut. It's like redacted. Hey, that's pretty cool. It's redacted. Let's go ahead and give this, fill the old fuel tank here and let that sit for a little bit on the ice while we get into the show. So yeah, I've got a little bit of a challenge. So here's the thing, guys. I think most of the views and most of the comment activity and things like that I get on the Joe stuff, on the Booze Briefing, is on Facebook. The group has been there a long time. You know, a lot of the guys that are in these stories are in the group, you know, and it's a little bit of a beehive of activity. It's great. I'll publish a video, get 100 views, right? Like within 5 minutes, there's like 100 views. It's pretty awesome. But then on YouTube, because the channel's newer, not so many, 5 views, 10 views, that kind of thing. It's harder on YouTube to build a presence, I think, than it is Facebook. But at any rate, our age group is on Facebook. And we all go to YouTube and do stuff too. But, you know, it's a niche audience. I get it. You're into military humor, a lot of it gutter humor. You're into that kind of stuff. It's only a small part of the population that's probably into that kind of thing. But I have a challenge. So right now on Facebook, I think we got around like 530, 525, somewhere in there, followers. And on YouTube, I think there's like 10 of you guys. And probably half of you that are subscribing on YouTube are already members of the group too. So I'm not sure how much overlap there is, probably a lot. But anyway, the presence is minuscule. So here's my challenge to you guys. If we can get to, let's say 10,000, that's a stretch goal. I mean, it's, you know, I could say 1,000, but that's like twice as many as we have on Facebook now. We can get more. There's more than 500 people that are veterans in the United States that are interested in this kind of stuff, especially to help raise money for a good cause. If we get to 10,000, here's my pledge to you, okay? Doing some spring cleaning, I found the other day this. Those of you who are OG old school already know what's on the other side of this little cardboard box here. It says potatoes au gratin. Potatoes au gratin. This MRE entree was probably from one of the last MREs that I had in my rucksack, in my Alice pack, back in 1989. Based on the date stamp on this thing, this was packaged in 1987 or 88. I can't remember. It's one of the two. Let's just say I got 88. It's like 38 years old. This is a packet of 38-year-old potatoes. And that I'm willing to, let me phrase this carefully. This is going to be fucked up, right? I'm willing to open it and attempt to eat it, okay? All right, if I open it up and there's like, you know, spores going everywhere and it's like a hand comes out and like tries to pull me into the pouch, I'm not going to eat it. But I will make an effort to give it the old college try to eat, or at least take a bite out of this 38-year-old packet of MRE potatoes. Okay? Yeah. Believe me, I'm not looking forward to it. I'll be glad to have 10,000, you know, followers or subscribers or whatever. But yeah, I'm not looking forward to it. But I will do it for you because I love you. I love you like a brother and a mother and a hooker. I love you guys. Okay, so yeah, just tuck that away. So what can you do to help get to the day of reckoning for me? Well, spread the word, man. Yeah, give us a like, share, follow, that sort of thing. Tell your buddies, man. Tell your buddies. Every single one of you guys and gals out there, we all run in veteran circles, right? We all have our buddies, man. Buy them a copy of the book. You know, go on Amazon. Your veteran buddies, give them a copy or two of the books. Send it to them with a note. Hey, go subscribe on Facebook at least, you know, or YouTube. That's fine. You know, so I do like the engagement on Facebook a little bit better. It's a little bit easier for commenting and threading and just sort of, you know, the liking and sharing. I think it's a lot easier, but I do put them on Facebook for those who want to see it. But at any rate, that's my challenge to you guys. Right? So get the word out, man. And by the way, Volume 3, which I kind of alluded to earlier, is going to be, I don't have a time. I wish I had a timeline for you guys. I think it's safe to say by the end of the year. I just don't know if it's 2 months or 6, right? So just keep it in there. But when those 3 volumes are out, I am planning at this point on reformatting and refactoring all 3 volumes into a sort of collector's hardback. Right now they're only available in soft copy, soft cover. So a hardback version that has all 3 sort of the complete Joe's, you know, Cold War Diaries type thing. So yeah, I definitely want to do that as well. So at any rate, that's your challenge. Spread the word. Don't just share it on Facebook and hope your buddies go like it. Buy the book, spread them, send them as gifts, man. They make great gifts. You can get them on Amazon. All right, here we go. So we got a couple of questions today. I believe we have a couple. Let's see. That I picked out. No, we just have one question today. That's right, we have one question today because this is actually a rather detailed question. And I've gotten this from several of you guys. And I'll just summarize it as such. So, how do you come up with such funny and intriguing titles for the stories in the Joe's books? And that is something I get a lot by people who, even people who just pick up the book and thumb through it. Recently we had some windows replaced in the house and a front door replaced, and we had the company, you know, come out and do it and stuff. And the sales gal that was over here, she was walking us through and telling us about these options we could do and blah, blah, blah. She sees these books sitting up here and she's like, so what's this? And I said, well, I told her about the show and the books and why I'm doing it. And she's like, oh, that's great. And so she picks up this one, the first one, and she starts thumbing through it. And the first thing she goes to is the table of contents. And she sees this. Now, she's not a veteran, by the way. And she sees the titles of the stories and she's laughing. And I was like, what are you laughing at? You're not even at a story. She goes, these titles are really funny. When you don't have any context, I guess it could be kind of funny. For me, I already know what they're about, but I try to write them a little funny. So I got a question. How do you come up with these titles? Okay, so by the way, before we get too much into this, let me take a sip of this Blue Note Juke Joint whiskey. This is unfiltered, uncut Juke Joint whiskey from Blue Note out of Memphis. It's it's smooth. I know it didn't seem smooth because I swallow funny, but it definitely has that 119, 120 proof bite on it. But good. Yeah, it's good. again, would I go buy this? Probably not. I might keep it around for people to come over, but I prefer that kind of lower proof. I think Dimwit knows that. That's why he wanted me to go out and get this. I prefer that sort of high 80s, low 90s proof where there's not quite as much bite, but it's not bad. Tastes like bourbon. Ching, there we go. We'll take it, all right? So here we go. So, when I tell these stories, it's always, around a campfire or party or whatever. It's, hey, tell my buddy Bob here the story about that time you guys did this or that. That time that me and Private Snuffy ran off and did something funny that doesn't make for a great title. All right. It's A, too long. B, it's terrible. It's just terrible. So, and when you socially convey those stories, you don't give them a chapter title. You have to say, all right, you have to say it like that, this one time, right? That kind of thing. But that doesn't work in print. It really doesn't. And I realized it when I was writing volume 1. Sometimes the story titles, let me back up a second. For those of you who are new to Joe's, each chapter is basically a little short story, right? This one time, these guys, and we did this and did that, and it's funny, ha, ha, ha. All right, and it's just chock full of them, rapid fire. Some of them are 2 pages long, some are 15, but they're all kind of bite-sized stories. And you can largely read them in any order, although it does help to maybe start from the beginning for some of the character development. But they're all true stories. And I rarely start writing these stories from memory with a title in mind. Sometimes I do. Every now and then again I do. But it's usually like, I'll give you an example, like the Canteen Pissoir. That's a story. I won't ruin the story by telling you about it. But the Canteen Pissoir started out as the placeholder was the canteen story, Littleton's Canteen. By the time I get to the end of these stories, I always have a title, set, pretty set. Very rarely do I already know what I'm going to call that story because it makes sense and it's funny and it kind of jibes, right? But it always comes to me as I'm fleshing it out. It comes to me in a couple of different ways. So if you think about the Joe stories and the titles, they're very similar to movie titles, right? So we think about, like, here's a couple of that I wrote down that kind of came to me. Tinker, Tailor, Soldier, Spy. Great, I think it's a book too, a great movie title as well. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, right? It doesn't tell you anything about the story, but you're like, it gives hints, right? One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. A Streetcar Named Desire. It drops hints of what it's about. It's an allusion to something. Slumdog Millionaire is another one. If you've never seen Slumdog Millionaire, by the way, that is a great foreign film if you're into films. I don't want to ruin it for you, but yeah, the guy goes on the Indian version of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire and just that old game show. So I'll leave it at that. But Slumdog Millionaire, great name, great title. It's catchy. It hooks you. Like, what's that about? I want to know, right? So we're going to go through a couple or several. I picked out several different story titles, and I'll tell you kind of the history of some of them, how I came up with the titles for those stories. The first one is What is Your Quest? And that was in the first, and there's a pause there. What, ellipse, ... is your quest? That's in volume 1. It was a quest. It became a quest. What is Your Quest is Monty Python. Quest for the Holy Grail. What is your quest? What is the wingspan of the swallow? African or European? It's Monty Python. That's where that came from. It just immediately, as I wrote the story, I realized that in that story we were really on a quest. And so it's a quest. What is your quest? Monty Python jumped into my head. Two Men, One Penis Pump. Probably, arguably, the most popular, probably funniest story to me and to, I think, most readers in volume 1. Two Men, One Penis Pump. That's totally a riff on the whole 2 girls, 1 cup meme that went around. My God, it's probably been a number of years now. And if you don't know what 2 girls, 1 cup is, by the way, don't go and Google it, okay? It's pretty fucking nasty, all right? But All right, if you're a veteran, go and Google it. If you're a spouse, if you're a dependent, if you're just some Joe Schlabotnik off the street that never wore the uniform, don't go and Google it if you don't know what it is already. It's pretty nasty. But at any rate, that's totally a riff on Two Girls, One Cup. And no, two men, one penis pump is not a gay story, but that's what draws you in. You're kind of like, what the fuck is this about? You start reading the story and it's kind of funny. A picture is worth 1,000 push-ups. That's also in volume 1. And believe it or not, one of the first 8-track tapes back in the day when I was a kid that I remember playing was Rod Stewart, A Picture Tells 1,000 Stories. I believe it was. Yeah, a picture tells 1,000 stories. And the old saying, a picture's worth 1,000 words. It was just a riff on that. And that story has to do with a picture and physical punishment from drill sergeants. And it just kind of clicked and popped into my head, oh, a picture's worth 1,000 push-ups. Even though push-ups wasn't really the punishment we got, but it still kind of fit, you know, it still kind of fit. Here's another one, A Goat Named Gamma. I think that was in the first one as well. A Goat Named Gamma. The story did involve a goat. All right, it did involve a goat, an actual goat. But in the Army back then, we had this vehicle, and some of you are already cringing right now, called the Gamma Goat, or nicknamed the Gamma Goat. You can go and Google Gamma Goat if you want, G-A-M-A goat, G-O-A-T. You can go and Google it if you don't know what a Gamma Goat is. I'm sitting here writing the story, and it was initially titled The Goat Story. And halfway through, you know, it just popped into my head. I can't explain it, just popped into my head. Goat, Gamma Goat, it's a Gamma Goat. It's a Gamma Goat. No, it's actually a real goat. What's a goat named Gamma? And that's kind of how that worked. Monk and the Mercedes. One of my favorite stories and craziest memories of being stationed in West Germany at the time was in that story. A lot of the principal characters from the books kind of all were in that together. And yeah, it involved a Mercedes-Benz. That was parked on the side of the street. And Monk wasn't his name. He didn't have, that's not his real name, first off. It's not his real name. It was the story about that guy's last name was the tentative title. And as I'm writing this story, and I'm like, you know, this Mercedes, oh my God, I can't. I remember how funny it was. And then I'm like, let's say his name was Smith. It wasn't Smith, but let's just say like Smith and the Mercedes doesn't work. I thought the Mercedes angle needed to be in the story. And so that's how his character became Monk in the book, was that story. It was sort of like, oh, Monk and the Mercedes. That, the M and the M, the Monk and the Mercedes, kind of rolls off the tongue, kind of draws you in like Monk and the Mercedes. That what is going on here? Like it draws you in. I'm a firm believer that in these types of books, at least, the chapter titles shouldn't be overly descriptive. They should be hooks for you to want to read that story. Unlike if this was a science fiction novel, right, or just a work of fiction, you know, in general, you could call the titles whatever you wanted, The Awakening, you know, or In the Beginning, or you know, whatever, I don't know, Triumph, or as you follow the arc of some characters in a book, right? That's not what this is. That's not what this book is. So every story is like its own little microcosm, right? Here's another one, and we're kind of moving into, those are the ones I picked out of Volume 1. Out of Volume 2, Airborne Thumbelina. So some of you that I know very well are laughing like shit right now, right? When I said Airborne Thumbelina. All right, so Thumbelina was a little person, and is a midget, a dwarf. That's what we would have called them back then. I'm not, there's nothing wrong with it, man. All right, you know, but back then that's what they were. They were midgets, okay? So she was this little person. And I'm sitting here trying to come up with a title for this. And this was a tricky one too, right? Because I don't care about political correctness. I really don't. I truly do not give two rats fucking asses about political correctness. I just don't, man. Life's too fucking short. You laugh at the shit you can laugh at and you move on, right? We don't have time to hit the brakes and go, oh my God, did that offend somebody? You know, if it did, they need to sack up and be a man or a woman or a man-woman It's 2026. What the fuck? I can't even keep track of this shit. But my point is, I'm here to entertain me. Okay? If I laugh, that's my goal. If you guys laugh, that's a bonus. Okay? That's kind of the way I look at it, right? So, yeah, it was anyway. So, Airborne Thumbelina, the character in the story, Richie was his last name. Not his real name, but those of you who know the story well already know who the guy is who did that. He was in an airborne unit at the time. He was in the 82nd Airborne. Now I'm thinking, I got to work airborne in because that's kind of neat, because it's such a little bit of a departure from, it's one of the few stories, by the way, that doesn't have to do with 364 armor and being in that tank battalion. Most of those stories are mine, but this is one of the user-contributed, reader-contributed stories. So Airborne Thumbelina, and I'm thinking, airborne, what? Airborne what? It's got to be something. I can't say airborne and the midget. Doesn't make any sense, right? Well, what's a little person? Tom Thumb? Okay, and you start riffing on shit, right? You can Thumbelina. Oh, yeah, Airborne Thumbelina. Airborne Thumbbelinda, and I can call her Belinda. That's how Airborne Thumbbelinda came along, right? So that obviously was not her real name either. I know her real name. That is not her real name. So Airborne Thumbbelinda was kind of just, it just arrived, right? And sometimes you have to alter the story and the characters' names a little bit and stuff like that to make the titles work. But I think the titles are just as important as the stories in Joe's. Here's a really, the Mad Shitter. The Mad Shitter, I thought, was the Mad Shitter in 1 or 2? Maybe it's in 2. I think it's in 2. The Mad Shitter is actually what we called the person. That story, that title, I did not, that's what we nicknamed the person back then, was the Mad Shitter. That wasn't me sitting around going, I got to come up with a cool title. See, sometimes the titles are already there in your head, like, yeah, the Mad Shitter, because that's what we called them. And the Mad Shitter is a perfect title for a story. You already know it's going to be nasty. And you already know it's going to be fucked up, right? Some really fucked up shit's going to happen, right? So that's the Mad Shitter. Francis competes in Kimbledon. This is another one. I'm trying to hurry a little bit because I don't want to make these videos too long. Francis competes in Kimbledon was in volume 2. Yeah, and that was, I don't want to give away the story, but it involved tennis. When you think tennis, you think Wimbledon. It did involve a chemical suit, hence the Kim in Kimbledon. And I just sort of, my brain halfway along the way and sort of recalling the story and putting everything down, like, Kimbledon, Wimbledon. Yeah, okay. Francis was a throwback to Stripes. It even says so in the story. The story opens up talking about the movie Stripes. Lighten up, Francis, right? So, yeah, lighten up, Francis. Yeah. Francis competes in Kimbledon. Manners Matter at the Madams was in volume 2 as well. That was just, that's probably one of the most descriptive and applicable titles to any story in these books. Manners Matter at the Madams. You already know a madam is a chick who runs a whorehouse, right? So manners matter. Somebody went in there trying to be nice or not showing manners, one of the two. But either way, it's one of those things that just rolled off my tongue halfway through the story. We're at the Madams. Manners Matter at the Madams. It was MMM. It just kind of clicked. And when you see something like Manners Matter at the Madams, it draws you in. Like, I want to know more about that. Like, what happened at the Madams? I want to know, right? Heidi and the Spankenheimer twins, which is one of my favorite. That's probably, oh boy, that's right up there, man. That's one of my favorite stories. They were not actually called the Spankenheimer twins. Spankenheimer is not a fucking surname, okay? It's not an American surname. It's not a German surname, okay? It's Joe German, right? It's broken English German. It's Joe German. We had our own little cadence with the German language when we were there. Nix 9, Frankenstein. We'd make up our own shit, riffing on German words. So Spankenheimer, yes, it's exactly what it sounds like. Spankenheimer. But her name was Heidi. So Heidi and the Spankenheimer twins. It's just Joe German there. And finally, we get to Jesus, Unicorns, and the Soju Fairy. Another one of the, I believe there's 2 or 3 reader-contributed stories where they shared the details with me, and I kind of wrote it all up in volume 2. Jesus, Unicorns, and the Soju Fairy. Soju is a Korean beverage that depending upon who you ask and what time of day it is and how many whiskeys they've had, they'll either tell you they hated it or they loved it. But either way, there was a hangover involved, a pretty massive one at the end. That story had no title. Actually, it had some sort of working title, and I don't want to give it away. But when you have a title like, I don't know. Again, I don't want to give away the story, so I don't want to make up a... It's a funny story. It's a funny fucking story. Jesus, unicorns, and soju were all referenced in the story. And sometimes you just stitch them together and you're like, boy, that's pretty random, right? Jesus, unicorns, and the soju fairy. And that just kind of works. So, yeah, that's it, man. I don't know. Every story in these books, there's a story behind the title as well, right? I just picked, I don't know, 10 of them or so to give you guys a little bit of a taste. So that's all I've got for today. Remember, keep your glass full, your bullshit in overdrive, and keep your stories worth telling, guys. Remember, the challenge is out. 1988, potatoes au gratin. I'm going to taste them. We get to 10,000 subscribers, right? Rock of the Morn, Rampage, and We Pierce.
Dismissed!